Well, good morning, everyone. We're just about getting the last few people coming in, so we will get started. And thank you very much, and welcome to today's webinar. This is our Engage, Update, Inform webinar. Many of you will have been aware we held an event at the end of March at Stoke-on-Ayland Golf and Resort, and were blown away by the amount of people that wanted to come along. We initially hoped we would get some in the region of 200 odd, and within 41 minutes we had 250 people registered, and so we had to close it out, sadly. So therefore we wanted to follow up that event by holding a virtual version. So the information you're going to see today is everything that was delivered at Stoke-on-Ayland, with a couple of slight tweaks that with news that's recently come out. But to ensure that as many people as possible are kind of getting the information that they want and need out of the Sizewell project. So for those I haven't met before, my name is Shorey-Mills. I'm the Sizewell C Supply Chain Engagement Director here at the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce, and I'll be chairing today. And in a minute, I'll run through the agenda so you know who else is going to be speaking. As always with our webinars, we are recording today. And the aim of that is that this will then go onto our website, onto our support section, along with all of our other webinars that we do. And the whole idea is then you can review and listen to what's being said, and ensure that you've got that content readily available. So for any of you who are not able to sit through the entire event, don't worry, you'll be able to watch it afterwards, along with, like I say, all of our other webinars from our series that we've done and we have coming up in the future. We're going to use the Q&A and the chat function at the bottom. Please try and put all your questions into the Q&A box. We have a dedicated Q&A section at the end. But also then we will be attempting to live answer any if we feel there is the opportunity to. And the chat box, please feel free to introduce yourself, add any comments. We always keep an eye on these things, and it would be great to see some feedback there as well. We will share all slides from today's recording to everyone that has registered as well, so that not only will you have the video, you'll have a copy of the slides with all the information on. The agenda for today is as follows. You'll hear from myself, first of all, to do with our role as the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce within the Sizewell C supply chain, and a bit of an update on the Sizewell C project itself, where it's at and what's happening. Then I'll hand over to the Sizewell C team, which will be Gavin, first of all, from the Employment Affairs Unit, talking about all the work they're doing around skills and employment. Tim from the commercial arm at Sizewell C around the activity that they're undertaking and the role that they will play. Michael has kindly stepped in for Peter, who spoke at the in-person event back in March from the Civil Works Alliance, to talk about their role within the project and who they are in particular. And then finally, sadly, you have to put up with me again. And I'll be speaking on behalf of the Sizewell C ESG team, because as you've heard from us before, social value will be key on this project. But sadly, the ESG team couldn't join us today, but for all the right reasons, because they're actually delivering ESG in Suffolk today themselves on a volunteering day for the entire team. So if there was ever a good reason for someone's social value to not be attending something like this, it's because they're delivering social value themselves. We will then hold a Q&A at the end. We've put a 12 o'clock finish. We'll be here as long or as little as is needed. So we encourage as much engagement from you all when you can. The key with this event is to update you and to make sure you're aware of what's happening. Moving forward, there will be more and more events that are very specific to sectors and to opportunities that are coming up. So there will be less of this very general update, but we will continue through our work to make sure you're aware of what is happening on the project, where the opportunities are coming. So just as a quick reminder and a quick catch on what we do, because we always like to make sure people understand our role and why we're here. And we have these key 4 themes, and these will remain consistent throughout this entire project. Firstly, local. Fundamentally, our role here is because of that. We need to ensure that we are delivering local jobs, local skills, and local opportunities. Sizewell made all these commitments and these promises, and they employ us for that reason, to help them deliver on that local angle for this project. We've been working on it now since 2011. So, we've been involved for 13 years ourselves, let alone people on Sizewell who've been going even longer than that. So it's really key for us that we make the most of this. And as always, when we're talking local, that's Suffolk. When we're talking regional, That's the other 5 counties of the East. We are here to represent businesses from across all 6 counties. So it doesn't matter, as long as you're in those 6 counties, you get our support. We're there to help you, and we will support you all the way, including, how we help create collaboration. Businesses are going to have to work together, and it's great that Mick from the Alliance is here today, because that's probably one of the greatest examples of collaboration you're going to see on this project, and I'll let him explain a bit more about that later. But actually getting businesses to work together, understand where they fit on a project like this, is going to be key. There has to be a legacy. As Suffolk Chamber of Commerce, what we want is a business landscape that is fit for purpose for Sizewell, but actually, more importantly, post Sizewell. So for us, it's about making sure we get the right businesses in the right place at the right time, growing sustainably and suitably in the right place to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that will come off this project, but also the raft of projects that's coming to this region. So if we can get you fit for Sizewell, and you also then that benefits you when work on other energy projects, other infrastructure projects, then this is a good thing, and this is what we want. But it's important that we get sustainable and proportionate growth. We don't want businesses taking on too much, subsequently struggling or potentially failing, and because that doesn't do the Suffolk economy any good. It doesn't do Sizewell any good. So it's about getting the right businesses in the right place at the right time, and that's where we'll support you in doing that. And of course, fundamentally, the environment. There's been a lot of press over the last few days around net zero targets and all these things. The UK's 2050 agenda cannot be reached without Sizewell and without nuclear power. So therefore, how do we help as local businesses deliver on that? And importantly, how do we help you as local businesses do your own transition into net zero and carbon-free fuels and different types of machinery and equipment and ways to approach projects like this? This is an opportunity to not only do good for Sizewell around carbon emissions, but actually for our own businesses and net zero as a wider thing. And of course, then there's the commitment. There is fundamentally a commitment on Sizewell to spread that supply chain spend around the UK. They've committed to 70% UK supply chain spend, which is higher than Hinkley. And within that, they've committed 4.4 billion to our region, 2 billion of that to Suffolk alone. Now, that's key because that's exciting as an opportunity for us as a region, but it aligns to everything else that's happening around the future nuclear supply chain, around more localized procurement, around more green procurement. I mean, if you're trying to cut carbon emissions on a project like Sizewell, one of the easiest ways is get as many businesses as local and get as many local people as possible to work on a project, because then there's less car miles, there's less need for transporting goods and services. So everything about this project is really focused on local and those key areas within the UK, our region, the North and Wales, of how they can deliver legacy, focusing particularly on future nuclear supply chains with the other opportunities that will come in the future from large-scale plants like Sizewell, but also small modular reactors and other types of reactor technology. So how do we help? Many of you will experience our help. Things like the webinars today are all about what we try and do, but it is about making sure you're introduced to the right people at the right time, know who you need to be working with and working for, how your business needs to adapt and change, and some of that will be covered off today in what you'll hear, but helping you to understand what's going to be expected of you as a business if you want to work on Sizewell, because then at that point you can make the informed decision. If we can tell you when stuff is happening and how it's going to happen and what you need to do to be part of it, then you can decide as a business if it's for you. And if it is for you, we'll then help you through funding, through training, whatever it is, to help you get the most information you possibly need to get you in the right place. We run the portals, and I'll touch on the portal in a second, and we'll also support innovation. Everything possible around you as a business, we will help you. One of the ways in which we help is through our webinars. And so, yes, we've got today, but we've got 3 other webinars coming up in May that we encourage people to sign up for. As mentioned, they're always recorded. The reason we record them is because the information is relevant now. But for you as a business, if you take the one we've got on the 7th of May, getting your people ready for accessing the site, it's going to be a really informative one. And we've got a fantastic sign up for that. But it may well then be that you're not actually on site for another 18 months. So maybe in a year or so's time, revisiting this to refresh that is going to be important. But please continue to sign up for our webinars. They are there to support you. They're there to help you and to help you improve your business and get best positioned you can for when those opportunities come. And one of the key ways on this is through Compete For. So many of you have known for a lot of years, we've run our portal, and then more recently, we've also then supported Sizewell in running Compete For. Compete For is where all opportunities on this project will be hosted. So whenever anyone from Sizewell, the Alliance, the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 contractors has opportunities available for local, regional, also national businesses on this project, they will post that opportunity onto Compete For. We are currently in a transition period where we will, at some point in the near future, switch off our portal and move all of this support, including things like the recordings of the webinars today, onto Compete For, so it's one place for everyone. But the key message, as always, is all businesses sign up to Compete For. Even smaller businesses who maybe are not ever going to bid for stuff direct on a platform like this, it will give you the information as to who has won this stuff. So if there is a project, last week one went on for dredging, you'll be able to see who's won that, what the process is going through, how the activity is happening. And then if there are suitable contracts at the next tier down for dredging, they'll be posted on here. But then we'll also support you in those intros. If you're a business that needs to talk to someone around dredging, whoever has won that contract will be able to make those introductions. And of course, whoever has won that contract is going to want to talk to local businesses, because that's part of the commitments of Sizewell C. Now, what's key and this would have been the part where kind of Steve would have outlined. But the message from him, and he does apologise for not being able to be here today. But as always, it's good reasons why he's not here. It's positive meetings on site of making more activity happen. But now you will have seen, since the development consent order getting started, if you like, in January, activity is now actively happening on site. And some of the images you'll see here are some of the work undertaken by local firms on site already. The community forums and the site forums are taking place. We're seeing obligations from this project already put into place and funds being released. And they are now establishing resources on site to ensure they have the people needed to be able to provide this project. And then the same with our local authorities, bringing the people in that they need to help get this project started and happening. So one of the biggest changes over the last few months has been the government ownership. And I know Tim will touch on this a tiny bit, but it does make a massive difference to how this project moves and what's going to happen. Because the government now being the major shareholder on this project, it's a good thing with regards to the security on the project and keeping an eye on costs. It does mean, though, we all have a responsibility on those costs. And I know when we were at the event in March, Steve was keen to say it's they want to use local businesses where it's right to do so, but that's not at any cost. Fundamentally, we're all taxpayers, so this project will be responsible to the taxpayer. So what we have to ensure is that businesses who want to work on this have to evidence their social value, have to tick all the boxes that Sizewell want around their commitments, but they do have to be commercially viable. And so that was very much an encouragement from Steve, is just make sure that look at what can give your business that competitive advantage. Let's make commercial decisions around rates and around the work that you can do that make sense. But also consider the fact that social value is where you make that biggest difference. Fundamentally, the local supply chain, the way in which that's going to be evidenced is through social value. So by being a local business, you are a solution to so much of this project. So as long as you're in the right place at the right time, pricing it correctly, you're going to and delivering on what you promise you'll do, then we have a great opportunity. We want to create the best legacy, and Sizewell wants to create the best legacy from this. And so again, the message from Steve is that look at what Sizewell is going to bring as an opportunity, but look at the wider nuclear sector and the opportunities that are going to come. The picture on the screen now as a final image, Sizewell B is there. They want to extend the life of Sizewell B by a further 20 years. So at some point, we're going to have B and C operational together for a number of years. And that brings huge opportunities and huge legacy to this region. So there is massive opportunities and ways of getting involved through the construction of Sizewell C in the nuclear sector. But actually, as part of that legacy, again, it's about gearing your business up slowly through this next period of time, because we have got plenty of time, to ensure that we then have local businesses not only building it, but operating it, managing it, maintaining it. This project is a long time in the making. It's going to take 10 to 12 years to build. Purely from my perspective, I was recently near site with my son who's 6, and I've said for years, for the last 3 years to a lot of you, that this project's going to take 10 to 12 years, and that kind of just rolls off the tongue. But then it really hit home, because I thought, well, my son will be an adult before this project is finished. And it's that type of thing where you realize that, yes, we understand from local businesses why they want to be involved today. They want to get involved, but we've got time. There is plenty of time. And hopefully from what you'll hear from Gavin, from Tim, and from Mick today will help you understand what the project is trying to do to make that happen. As a final thing, and just as an extra from what was said before, many of you would have seen recently there's been the release of the Hinkley Point C socio-economic report for last year. So Hinkley Point C, for those not aware, that's the plant that is currently under construction somewhere, I don't know, 55, 60% of the way through, down in Somerset in the southwest. And Sizewell is that direct replica. So we've always talked about intelligent replication. Let's copy the design and copy the ways of construction that work down at Hinkley, and that will make Sizewell cheaper and quicker to build. And then the aim is future nuclear plants will be the same. You can make them cheaper, quicker, and you start to get a much better process involved. Now, what Hinkley has done, though, is it's proved the ways in which they can build these quicker and better, but also proved the good that can be done. So we do understand for a lot of local businesses, when you're talking 4.4 billion, it sounds a lot. How on earth is that going to be delivered? And we have confidence as a chamber that it's going to be. We wouldn't be doing this role if we didn't think it could be. And we're there to hold Sizewell to account where we see opportunities that maybe have gone awry. But Hinkley's report last week very clearly stated they're now at over 5.3 billion spent with businesses in the southwest. And they even were willing to expect that to probably finish around 7.3 billion. Now, that is just massive. And that is obviously a mixture. That is local, small businesses that exist and have existed in Somerset for years, all the way up to larger businesses that have inward invested into Somerset. But again, that's an opportunity in itself. And I know, speaking to our colleagues at Somerset Chamber who perform a similar role to what we do, is that's that opportunity then to grow the economy in that region outside of just Hinkley. So that's a positive. So if we can replicate those numbers, yes, 4.4 is the commitment, but Hinkley is proving what is possible when businesses switch on and get involved. And, it's nice to see that 1.2 billion of Hinkley's spend has been spent in the region already. So there's businesses potentially on this call today that are already working down at Hinkley, gaining that experience to then bring that over to Sizewell. And there's in the region of 3,800 businesses in the supply chain at Hinkley Point C. 3,800. And that is huge. And that's across the UK. Oh, actually, no, that's international, I should say. But that's massive. So again, it just gives you an idea for the scale of this project. And outside of that, and this is very much across what Gavin will talk about today, but a third of all the people being trained right now at Hinkley are from Britain's most deprived areas. And when you're trying to create that legacy and trying to create a transformational environment, that type of stat really stands out, because we know in Suffolk, we live in a beautiful part of the world, but we do have our problem areas. We do have areas of deprivation. So this is a way to bring whole new rafts of people into employment, which tackles some of the other issues that we see as a chamber and we regularly get fed back, that actually there isn't enough people out there, we're struggling to recruit, etc. So that's at the point where I'll stop. Sizewell is real. Sizewell is happening. Yesterday they did the announcement on the unions and that agreement being signed. A couple of days ago, you had Framatome doing their announcement on their multi-billion-pound contract. The reactor cores are already being built and the rest of the vessels in France for Sizewell. There's so much activity on site. If you drive up and down Lovers Lane, etc., now you will see it. So it's a hugely exciting time. It is only just getting started, but hopefully from the rest of what you'll hear today, you'll see that there is lots going on and lots more to come soon. So at that point, I will hand over to Gavin, who will go through all of the work that his team are under.
Thanks very much, Ash. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Hi, so my name is Gavin Brunning. I'm the Operations Manager for the Sizewell C Employment Affairs Unit. Which is quite a grand name, the Employment Affairs Unit. What I would like to do today is to explain a bit more about the people and employment and skills agenda at Sizewell, and also just give you a flavour of the role that the EAU plays in the people, employment and skills agenda. Ash, if you could move me on. Thank you. So I'll start by emphasizing something that I would imagine is probably pretty obvious to most of you anyway, but people, employment and skills are of fundamental importance to the Sizewell project. And we know that they're at the heart of a safe and successful project. They are a key component of the way that we will manage risk and create real value. Therefore, we need to be very mindful that we've got to shape pathways, we've got to create opportunity for people to join the project and to progress within the project. And in doing that, we can deliver something that is sustainable and leaves behind a legacy, a lasting social value, sort of linking back to what Ash was saying just a moment ago, a lasting social value for Suffolk and for this region. So today I will cover off three key topics. We'll have a look at the commitments that Sizewell have actually made. We will have a little look at how we plan to meet these commitments. And as I said earlier, we'll just cover off at the end the role that the Employment Affairs Unit will play in all of this. Okay, so moving on then, in terms of people commitments, let's have a look at the people-related commitments that Sizewell C has. If you could move on, Ash, thank you. There's four basic objectives that we need to cover off. So again, this has already been alluded to, but our development consent order and the associated deeds of obligation actually place on us requirements with regard to people. There are things that we need to do in order to comply with the obligations set out in the consent order. Clearly, we want to minimize workforce risk and we want to maximize productivity from our workforce. That's part of our remit to ensure we get value for money from the work that we do and from the project as a whole. We need to supply the required workforce, and we really shouldn't underestimate how challenging that is going to be. I'll touch on it a little further down the line, but current estimates would suggest that at the peak of construction, we'll have more than 7,000 people on site, and they're potentially working 24 hours a day at certain points in time. So 7,000 people on site means an awful lot more people actually employed and deployed. And we need to deliver more than just a power station. So social mobility and local benefit are also key objectives for us. So what does success look like? Well, first and foremost, securing the right workforce in the right place at the right time is absolutely critical to the success of the project. Managing workforce churn and displacement effectively is also going to be critical. The phrase intelligent replication was used by Ash just a little earlier, and for those of you that maybe haven't heard that, what that basically means is that we are building a power station that is in many regards identical to power stations already being built in HPC. But in terms of how we build them, we will replicate what is good, but we'll also consider what we might be able to do better based on the lessons we can learn from Hinkley. And workforce churn has been a significant challenge at Hinkley, and it's something that we need to be very mindful of as we start to ramp up the workforce requirements here and consider how best we manage it. And also when we think of displacement, a project of this size goes through various cycles, and at different points in time, people's work will come to an end. So we need to consider what happens when people's work comes to an end, and also how we perhaps can equip people with skills to stay with the project and actually change as the phases of the project change. Further success factors, so minimizing wage inflation and maintaining a stable IR framework are absolutely critical. Both inside the project, it's absolutely a necessity that we have a cohesive and harmonious relationship between the various people working on site at any point in time. But outside of the fence, it's also critical that we are a good neighbour. And good neighbour isn't just about behaviour in the local environment. A good neighbour is ensuring that we're not paying wages at a level where other industries and employees in the region are struggling to retain their labour. Equally, we've got to be very mindful that we will want at various points in time to use resource that is currently employed at Hinkley Point C. And we need to make sure that we're not effectively taking resource away from them whilst they still need it. So there's a balancing act to be done across both of these projects. Collaboration, we need to collaborate positively with supply chain and other sectors. Events like this are really important, folks, because this is our opportunity to really try to impress on you guys how important you are to the success of this project. This isn't going to happen without you, and we need to make it as easy as possible for all parties to work together to deliver a successful project, but also, just picking up on that last point, to deliver a sustainable legacy that's generating real social value. Okay, Ash, if you could move me on. So let's have a look at our commitments and a little more detail at what some of those commitments actually are. So playing an active role within the regional skills infrastructure. Well, as part of that process, we have funded a regionally based skills manager, and that person is looking at coordinating the region's response to skills requirements, not just at Sizewell C, but also across multiple other projects that are happening in this region and across other energy projects. You know, we are part of a much bigger thing here in the east of England, and we recognise that there is opportunity for synergies between different industries, but also we recognise that there's a risk that if not carefully managed, people could potentially trip themselves up. So it's very important that we play a key role in the regional skills agenda as well. Working with local schools and colleges, we set up a Young Sizewell C initiative. This is going to help people gain important opportunities on the project. This is part of us reaching back into the local community and in particular schools, where a number of initiatives will hopefully encourage people to, well, make people aware of what's happening here in Sizewell, but also encourage people to want to play a part in it at some point in the future. There are substantial funds for skills being made available, and working closely with local colleges, higher education providers and training providers, we will make sure that those funds are put to good use to, again, for the benefit of the project, but also for the benefit of the wider community. We have an ambitious target in terms of apprenticeships, 1,500. It's a big number, but experience from Hinkley Point C tells us that that is a realistic number, and that level of apprenticeships is going to make a real difference to young people in our region. We have bursary scheme that will help young people find an alternative pathway to work. So again, this is this initiative, along with the other initiatives we'll have around diversity and finding ways to get to hard to reach groups, to give them support, and that support in the form of pre-employment training, outreach initiatives, working closely with the councils, the DWP, etc., etc. These are all requirements for us. These are obligations that we need to meet, but also this is all part of the mix in terms of how we ensure that we're able to provide the workforce we need at the point that we need it. We have job service, and this job service will work in partnership with the region and will ensure that we are, as far as we possibly can, focused on local employment, maximising opportunity for local employment into the project. The job service is something that will grow and grow as the project grows and grows, but essentially this becomes the one-stop shop. This is the place where all of the vacancies on the project across the supply chain appear in one portal. And the last point here in terms of commitments is around creating a conveyor of opportunity. So we already have a sense, and I'll cover this off in a moment or two, we already have a sense of what skills we're going to require and when we're going to require those skills. And we are working obviously behind Hinckley. So, the ambition is that as skills complete their work at HPC, we at Sizewell will be sort of just starting to ramp up. So we can make use of skills that are no longer required on one project to pull them over to another project. In terms of apprenticeship opportunities in particular, actually, there is a chance here for us to provide apprenticeship opportunities at Hinckley for people to effectively prepare themselves to then transfer back to Sizewell at a point when we need them, and also then to continue their progression perhaps into higher level roles at Sizewell with real hands-on experience gained at our sister project. So that's a flavour of just some of the pledges and commitments that we aim to meet. Ash, if you could move me on. Thank you. So the minimise risk, maximise value aspect of our success factors and the objectives that we're trying to achieve. So there's some guiding principles here. We need to be demand-led. So we need to understand what we're going to need and when we're going to need it. And we need good visibility of that so we can actually plan how we're going to do it. I referenced earlier the point about intelligent replication. We need to learn from what's been going on at Hinkley Point, identify best practice from there and apply it ourselves, but also extract what learning we can. And if we need to do things slightly differently, then do things slightly differently here. That learning from HPC also extends into maximising the fleet effect. So again, I've kind of alluded to this. There is opportunity for intellectual capital, supply chain knowledge, and resources to transfer from one project to another. There is an advantage here in being what's referred to as second of a kind. So the way in which power stations tend to be constructed is sort of a number of them based on a similar design. So Hinkley went first. Hinkley had the unenviable task of kick-starting the nuclear construction industry in the UK. Having done that, then we have an opportunity to sort of ride on the coattails of some of that. We don't have to do all of that thinking again. We don't have to do any kickstarting in the way that they did. We can simply understand what they've learned and use it to our advantage. It's important that we understand the landscape that we're operating in. So local characteristics, local issues, local stakeholder relationships are going to be critical. And there's a lot of work already going on and will continue to go on to manage the impact of the construction of this power station. We need to invest wisely. And a lot of that means working with a lot of you in the supply chain, local and regional partners, to make use of what already exists. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If there is provision already available, things that can be repurposed, then things that can just be ready to go, then these are all things that we're interested in. We are not of the view that it needs to be our way. We're not of the view that we need to rechip or reset or build from scratch. If things already exist and have proven to be successful, and we believe they can be successful at Sizewell, then these are the kind of investments that we want to make. And we need to grow the pool, and that relates really to the workforce risk. How we mitigate workforce risk is by working proactively with local service providers and industries around the region to just make sure that we are finding intelligent ways to grow the pool of labour so that when we get to a point where we're going to need something, we know it's available. And so what are we going to need and when are we going to need it? So there's an awful lot of work has been going on. In fact, it's one of the development consent order requirements that we undertake workforce profiling, and that we share that information with people so that the wider community has an appreciation of what life is going to look like over the construction period for the project. What this graph shows you is indicative of the workforce that we expect to require over time, and also what phases of the project that workforce is going to be working on. So the thick blue line is the overall workforce requirement. You can see that that's peaking somewhere around the 80-month mark. And what you can also see if you look further down there are two major work programs within the project: the civils program, which is then followed by the mechanical, electrical and heating program. And so the dark blue dotted line is the civils program, and you can see the point at which the civils program starts to tail down a bit is the point at which the mechanical and electrical heating program actually grows. And really the peak requirements are an overlap of those two, which is pretty clear to see from the graph itself. So what we do recognize is that there are opportunities for skills transference as we transition through different phases. I think, I've already alluded to this, that part of the skills and training agenda will be how do we reskill workers so that they can stay with the project when their initial phase of work completes. So our skills agenda has to support the upskilling and retraining and provide those kind of opportunities. One other point to make, I think, this is looking at the Sizewell C requirements, but we're not blinkered. We are aware that we're not building in a bubble. There are a lot of other things going on in this region. We need to be mindful of those, and therefore, our planning approaches need to be proactive. They need to be innovative, and we need collectively to work hard at this, because the numbers of people that we require are not currently sitting at home waiting for the phone to ring. That's not how this is going to work. Okay, thanks, Ash. So that's sort of covering off some of the commitments that we have to meet. So how are we planning to do that? So this graphic is one that we've used often. It's kind of used to sort of demonstrate our pipeline. We refer to it as our bow tie sometimes. If you start on the right-hand side of this, so this is employment. These are the people that are employed to work on our site. And in that space, we have people that we expect to progress through roles, whether that's through achieving training opportunities, for progression into supervisory roles, etc., etc. But working back from that then, all the way back into that green space, this is our outreach and education and guidance and school activity that's intended to inspire, to create some aspiration. There's STEM engagement in this space. There's a lot of third sector partnership activity that we expect to take place, and that will in turn feed people into this orange space where further initiatives are going to support them to start to get work ready. So in that sense, we hope to have piqued some interest in the early phases, and then to provide opportunity for those people that are interested to continue to progress through this pipeline, all the way through to pre-employment training, and this is engaging with local colleges, etc., etc. And then eventually funneling through the recruitment process. So the Sizewell C job service that I alluded to earlier then becomes the gateway for people that have been on this journey with us to end up in the world of work at Sizewell. And there are a whole stack of investment funds that are designed to support all of this activity. So if you could just move me on, Ash. In total, there's a pot of about £23 million available for funding, and it's sort of broken down into two main funds. So we have what's called the Asset Skills Enhancement and Capability Fund, or ASEC. We do like an acronym at Sizewell. I've tried to leave as many out as I possibly can, but you may hear reference to ASEC at some point in time, and this is what it is. So this is a pot of £12.8 million. The purpose of this pot really is to focus directly on the needs of the project and to support contractors and wider industrial agreements between projects, suppliers, regional stakeholders. It's linked to a wider regional legacy and wider industrial policy, and it potentially provides opportunity to leverage further funds. There are other potential investment opportunities out there, and in some cases we anticipate that funding that might be provided through the ASEC process would actually release further funding. and just to link up with other regional activity across maybe government sectors or different training boards and trade bodies, etc., etc. One of our learnings from Hinckley is in terms of how we release these funds. So at Hinckley, they had a fund, an ASEC fund, smaller than ours, and what happened there is that the vast majority of the funds were committed very early in the project. Therefore, as the project progressed and further needs became available, the funding had already gone. So we are taking a different approach at Sizewell, and the funding that is available will be phased across the different phases of the project. So 15 to 25% available to support the adoption of site operations, support services, enabling works type of activity that we are engaged in now. Once we get into those main areas of civil construction and the MEH workforce, then a larger slice of the pot is available to support those phases of the project. So in addition to the ASEC, Ash, if you could just move me on. We also have a raft of DCO investments. These cover employment, outreach, and bursary funds. In total, there's about £10 million available here. You will notice just on the right-hand side there, the largest share of this fund is being allocated to our job service and in particular our young Sizewell C. And this is about maximising opportunities for local people. And a key resource to support alliance recruitment and resourcing. And from our perspective, absolutely fundamental in priming that pipeline. These are the critical engagements. This is where we are able to access certainly the younger people at the earliest possible opportunity. As I said earlier, to plug them into the pipeline and feed them through. Other investment funds available are focused in different spaces. So the outreach fund is a sum of money that's provided to Suffolk County Council. This is intended to help create work-ready people and job-ready people. So this is a fund that will be released annually. And as with all of the funds that I'm talking about here, there are some very stringent governance processes that sit behind those. It's not just Sizewell C choosing where it wants to send money. So we work with a variety of different stakeholders through a variety of different forums to map out how we want to spend this money to benefit the project, but also to achieve the objectives of a variety of the funds that are available. Okay, Ash, if you could just move me on, please. And to support a lot of this activity, we are already building strong skills relationships. So we've established memorandums of understanding with 5 key Suffolk education and academic partners. And these are relationships now that have been in development for quite some time. So the MOUs were signed several years back, and it's certainly not the case that we're then just sitting and waiting. You know, we've been doing an awful lot of work behind the scenes, already providing some funding to support early activity ahead of the DCO investments being available, so that we can position the colleges and the education partners to be ready to support now. So further engagements going on. So the pool of people that we are looking for support from and relationships that we wish to develop. You know, we're not fixed on where we are. We know that there's more to do in this space. And also there are other MOUs that cover things like the voluntary sector or voluntary sector partners. And the intention of those is they'll further reinforce our commitment to the wider community. There are things that I can just kind of allude to there. So I talked about the importance of young Sizewell C. I talked about some of the engagement activities that have already kicked off. So we already have 8 initiatives that commenced in 2023 and will run throughout 2024 that are engaging with local schools. And the outreach there is proving really fantastic. You know, the interaction is good, the numbers are great, and the enthusiasm from people and the interest that they're showing is really great to see. So I think this is, from our perspective, this is a really good signpost of what's to come. Okay, on to the next slide. So I just want to talk very briefly about another acronym, the IDESP. This is the Inclusion, Diversity, Employment and Skills Plan. So what this is basically is our way of wrapping up all of the people risks and all the opportunity into a central plan. And these plans are basically will be in place at alliance level and in place with individual contractors and members of the supply chain on some of the bigger contracts that we have. What they basically do is seek to join up all of the strategies that we have, all of the opportunity that exists, and essentially answer a series of questions. So the plan itself will set out what is required from the alliance, from the individual contract in terms of people. It will incorporate what we already have so that we can identify the gaps between what we need and what we've got. That then informs the how do we bridge the gap by plugging into the skills, interventions and various initiatives that I've already alluded to. And ultimately then provides us with this monitor and reporting of outcome space. So it gives us something to report against. Reporting is probably just worth staying with for a moment or two. So we are aware one of the distinct differences between HPC and Sizewell is the ownership model. And the ownership model at Sizewell will come with a significant reporting requirement. We are spending taxpayers' money after all, so we have to spend that wisely, and we have to demonstrate how we're spending that wisely. So these reporting requirements will filter through to the supply chain, and there will be requirements for people to provide the information that's detailed within the IDESPs at the time that it's actually specified as being required. So really the IDSP is a central pillar for the delivery approach. As I say, it pulls everything together. It seeks to capture all of the key people questions and provide the information around those, so we get a sense of what's going to be required and when it's going to be required, where the gaps are and how we might plug those gaps. And it also embeds in a contractual way the requirements that the supply chain are going to have to meet as part of the work that they're undertaking on the project. And ultimately, it's how we provide assurance. So reporting the performance against these plans is how we assure those that require the assurance that we are actually doing what we need to do with regard to people requirements. Okay, just a little more to go. Let's look at the role of the Employment Affairs Unit then. Ash, if you could just flick on. Okay, so the Employment Affairs Unit is the part of Sizewell C that draws together all of the aspects of project delivery that involve the management and deployment of people. So the IDESP, as I've just mentioned, is a critical part of that because it provides an awful lot of the information that helps us understand what the people requirements will be at various points in time in the project. The Employment Affairs Unit itself is then split into 4 functional areas. So we have an employment and skills team, and the employment and skills team are focused very much on the outreach and attraction activity. How do we bring people into the project, and how do we support them into this the placement and experience space? And in terms of placement, then that engages with things like the job service, which is also part of the employment and skills area. Workforce mobilization is critical. So we have nuclear license conditions that we have to comply with regards to how people are onboarded and brought onto site, and the vetting processes that we need to go through, those kind of things, but also the competencies and qualifications that people require in order to work on our site. So the workforce mobilization team take care of how we bring people onto the site. And as Ash alluded to a little earlier, there is a webinar coming up in the next few weeks that will provide more detail on elements of that workforce mobilisation process. So if that is something you're interested in, then I would definitely look to sign up to that. Industrial relations is a big thing. So we had quite a milestone yesterday in terms of the signing of the collective framework agreements with the trade unions. So this sets out, if you like, the rules of engagement at Sizewell. And the Employment Affairs Unit has played a key role in developing those relationships and building those agreements and ultimately getting those signed off. Going forwards, the Employment Affairs Unit will have an IR team, and that IR team will be responsible for ensuring that the agreements are applied and used in the way that they were intended to be used. So again, it's another critical part of what we will be doing as an Employment Affairs Unit to support the project. And lastly, we've got an operations function, which is the area that I work in. And really the operations function is about governance and compliance. It's about ensuring that we are doing the things that we need to do. So my colleagues within the EAU are often rolling their sleeves up and getting on with doing what needs to be done. And my job really is to provide a level of assurance to the wider project that all of the required activity is taking place. So we'll play a key role in the effective mobilisation of a productive workforce. We act as a focal point where governance of the project's people requirements is managed. You just move on. And so final word from me, supply chain collaboration is critical to enable us to meet our ambitions on skills, education and employment. The skills legacy is the long-term ambition that we will all benefit from. A rich and diverse, highly skilled regional talent pool is what we want to create as part of this project and what we want to leave behind as a legacy. It will require your support, your engagement, your insights, on what we're getting right, what we could be doing better. The level of engagement through things like the Chamber of Commerce is going to be a critical element of that. The Sizewell C job service is operational and available to support supply chain roles now. We are in the process of reaching out to make sure that people are aware of this service and to get people plugged into this service. So the job service is something that you will hear more on, I've no doubt, in the coming months. And the early engagement with colleges, notably on apprenticeships, alluded to earlier, is already underway, but any engagement from supply chain is going to be hugely welcomed. Okay, I think that's me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gavin. Nice to meet you all. So Tim Johnson from Sizewell. I'll just give a quick introduction to myself, so you can flick on if you like, Ash. And if you want to go to the next, that's fine. Yeah, go to the next slide, that's fine, mate. So my team within Sizewell, we look after the commercial aspect and support the team in the delivery of the project. So we pick up everything from the tendering activities. So all of the expression of interest, the pre-qualification, tendering activities, managing that, negotiating, putting in place the contracts, and then managing the contracts as well, and through to succession. So making sure that we then close out those contracts and help support the business deliver what they need to be delivering in a successful project, but also helping the supply chain be successful as well throughout that process as well. So it's key for us that we have a supply chain which is healthy, competitive, but is ultimately there to support the project on the way through. So we're integral part of that. What you can see on the screen at the moment is just a bit of an overview of what's of where we are on site, or the overview on site at the moment. So number one, the blue area is what we call, as Gavin said, we love acronyms, but that's the main constructions site. So the MCA, and that's where the 2 reactors that you'll see the pictures on, and the activities that Mick will go on and kind of describe as the activities that they'll be supporting. The green area is the TCA. So that's where all of the key activities that we're starting to set up, and the activities there, and we'll kind of go through about what we're sort of touching and building on. The purple number 4 is kind of the front door to the project, and I've got some photos in a little bit that will show you of that. And that's the ACA, and ultimately what we're setting up there is a large project office that's going to be supporting the welfare and setting up of the site. So where we are, just a couple of sort of messages of kind of where, I don't know if you want to flick on, Ash, and we'll take us through. That's right. So what we've been up to over the last couple of years is we've been getting the site set up for delivery. I think the key message that I'd like everyone to take away today, we are now, in and delivering this project. Government are our major shareholder and on the project now, as EDF have taken us through to this stage and have kind of taken us through the development stage of the project. The government are now over 50% ownership of the project, so that's quite significant in a number of ways. It means now that the scrutiny has stepped up on the project. The level of interest that we have to show, to show back into our shareholders, steps up as you would expect. And it also means that when we are going through our approach to the market, we are taking packages out, and we need to demonstrate that we've got value for money for the project. So what does that mean? It means that we can demonstrate that we have, that we've got the right market price to deliver that successfully, and into against the budget that has been allocated to the project. So we have a very clear window, a clear envelope to deliver this project against, and we all have a role to play to ensure that this project continues to be affordable, continues to be successful, and as you hopefully have the opportunity to, working with the team, working with my team as we go forward, is making sure that we price it correctly. Excuse me. So a number of things around land accesses. So there's a large purchase of the land that enables us to move forward. That was part of the a big part of our milestones this year to take ownership of the land that we'll be developing as part of that, and a number of acquisitions of land parcels to support the wider aspects. So over the first couple of years of activity on site, we've been looking to mitigate and manage the ecology that sits around the site at this point in time. We have to be mindful of our neighbours and mindful of the environment that we are constructing in, and we are up against neighbouring against a triple SI site, so we have to be mindful of that as we go through that. So a number of things around bat management of the badgers and relocation of the badgers, and we've got a photo a bit later on of some of the habitats that we've been creating to support that activity, as well as that initial vegetation clearances, getting the hedgerows and the splays under control to support greater visibility as we access and egress to the site, but also to manage those nesting birds around that piece. Additionally, the permits and consents to ensure that ultimately everything that we're doing is in line with everything that we've signed up to as an organisation, as a project, and supporting that. So just show you a couple of the photos and some of the live activity that we've got on at the moment. So this is what we kind of class as the site, the front door to the project, what will be. This is the ACA. The road that you see kind of going in front of is St George's, King George's Avenue, and the white building there, which is going to be our welfare facility on site. In front of that, we're currently constructing the car park, And at the back of that, you'll see a number, the area of the topsoil that's been taken out, and that's where our archaeology, our sites and digging activities are currently undertaking to ensure that ultimately, when we start the next phase of the project, that we've understood and we've protected what was there previously. You just want to click on again, Ash. The next one is just a slightly up, closer view of that. So the welfare facility, this will house our kind of induction facility, police, ambulance activity to support that. So we're not impacting on local services as the project ramps up, and ultimately as well be a welcoming area for people who come onto site and work on the project. Okay, next slide, please. This is sort of, if you just imagine where you are on the back end of, if we sort of just take a sort of helicopter view back on the ACA. So this is the the site entrance to the TCA, so the temporary construction area, and that's the beginnings of the red route, or the main access route that runs through the temporary construction area, all the way through all the way through the area, and linking up the site. We just want to move on again, Ash. Thank you. And this is, so currently we've got trackway. So this is sort of the next piece. We've just gone over Bridleway 19. That currently goes through the top of the site of the project. This is the temporary trackway that we have on the site, and the main access road that's going to be constructed and starting this month will be kind of connecting up to the areas. In the right in the background, just trying to get my bearings, but just right in the background, you can just sort of make out the sort of the pool of water. That is the marsh harrier habitat that was created by the project to support that the relocation of the marsh harriers, and again, just ensuring that we are undertaking, doing what we said we'd do, undertaking and starting the construction in the in a sympathetic way. The what we've got on site at the moment, really, just to kind of give an overview. If you just want to click on again, Ash, you'll see the marsh harrier in all its glory there, and then one more, which is then the relocation of the badger sets that we've created and supporting that. So it's clean that as a project we ultimately support the habitat, making sure that we are, when we do ramp up construction and the activity to deliver, that we've ultimately done everything we can do to ensure the species are relocated. So the activities that we've got, just want to move on again, Ash. Thank you. So just to give a view of the scope of what we are delivering prior to the next phase of the project, which Mick will cover separately. So we're looking after all of the activities to get the site ready for construction activities. So that also includes the improvements to the facilities that we've got, and the road schemes and the rail schemes to support the project. So we've got the two village bypass. We've got the improvements, excuse me, to the rail routes to ensure that we can get all the materials to site by rail as well. The Sizewell Link Road, Northern Park and Ride. So a key part of this strategy is the Northern and Southern Park and Ride facilities that we will construct and support getting the construction workers onto site and onto the campus, and as well as the freight handling facility. So the site delivery team and the commercial team that are supporting that are focusing on all of these areas ultimately over the next 6 to 18 months, 2 years, to really enable the project to be set up for success and set up the alliance to come in to build to undertake the major civils activity that will be, the stuff that we see in the promotional activities. But this is these are the key areas at the moment. So we do have a number of. Just want to move on again, Ash, please. So we've got a couple of packages out at the moment, and for our off-site infrastructure piece, we're currently looking and building up packages around the park and freight schemes, the minor roads, as well as the rail schemes, to support that. I appreciate it is a busy, it's a busy slide, and there's lots of pieces. I think the key thing for me is keeping checked in with the Compete For website, keeping track of the activities and the expressions of interest that do go through. The team are working against a number of things, and we do look to give as much time as we can afford through that process, and we will be looking to give as much information, prior to that information going on to expression of interest and through the PQQ, and then into the tendering process. Okay, if you just want to move on again, Ash. I think you probably go on again as well. I think just the key piece I just want to land and leave you all with is, there's a number of stages that we need to be undertaking as a project to support the value for money exercise, and making sure that we step through a fair, transparent, but rigorous process to ensure that we understand what the market capabilities are, understand how that fits against our plan. Our plans evolve from time to time as well to fit in with the complex nature of a mega project, and ensuring that ultimately, as we do go out through to, the stage one, the first piece is the team, making people aware of the expression of interest on Compete For. So as we go through this, and as you get familiar with engaging and supporting the project, you realise there are a number of different systems, and we're keen to help, as well as the Chamber help and support that learning around the systems, and the engagement that is required to take it through from conception, putting your hand up to say, yeah, I'm keen to be put into, and through pre-qualifications to say, yep, you've got the prerequisite ability to undertake the job. You've got you can show and demonstrate that you've undertaken similar complexities previously, and then into the tendering activity. Now, the pre-qualification and tendering we utilise a tool called iValuer, which is ultimately the portal that will communicate, and the team will be pushing out documentations. As and when you do go through that, there'll all be the opportunity to take. We'll kind of take you through and walk you through those tools as and when. And then onto the contract award stage. And at that stage, it's then about setting up your business in a successful way to support our project. We do have a number of systems again that need to be convergent with. So being able to upload an information around Team Center, which is our document management center, and then CMAR, which is our contract management tool for the project. So if we put in place an NEC contract, the contract administration and the communications are instructed via CMAR, and as part of that. So there's a number of bits and pieces, through this, that just wanted to give you a flavour of the stages, an overview of the systems and activities. What we are looking to do, and we are striving to give as much visibility as we can. We are looking to give as much information and give that via Ash and the team through the Chamber, so that can help you plan your business's plan around getting your businesses set up for success to support the tendering activities, and then also to ensure that we go through a process whereby we can demonstrate to our shareholders, our existing shareholders at the moment, but they may change in the future, that those that we have undertaken are value for money. Okay, I think I'll leave it there, Ash, and hand over to Mick.
Lovely. Thanks, Tim. Morning, everyone. Nice to virtually meet you all. I think I've probably met some of the people on the call, but it's great to be on the call sort of here as the face of the Civils Works Alliance. I am the procurement lead for the CWA, albeit this the next 10 minutes or so is more about sort of an overview of what the CWA is all about. There is a procurement flavour to some of the later slides, but certainly some of the stuff that Tim went through previously is very close to my heart at the moment, and I've done quite a lot of work with Tim over the last sort of 12-15 months. So yeah, procurement lead for CWA. I'm actually a Balfour BT employee, and I'll tell you where that all fits together in a few minutes. I've been on the programme now since the early part of 2023, so what's that, 16 months? So yeah, quite a lot has sort of moved and changed over that period, but I have to say that it is a massively exciting prospect to be part of this programme. I'm obviously not local to the programme, but looking forward to watching this thing come out of the ground over time. I am here today as a substitute for Peter Anousis. Peter is the Alliance Director. He is an engineer, so in terms of talking around some of the scope that the CWA is about to deliver, I think Peter would probably go into it in a lot more detail. I'm very much a layman, so hopefully I won't do a lack of justice to actually the scale of what is in front of us, but hopefully in terms of how I lay it out, it's quite straightforward, and it is huge. So next slide, please, Ash. So over the next 10 minutes, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the Civils Works Alliance, who we are, what's the scope of our work, what we've got in terms of immediate priorities, and then I say just bringing in that sort of supply chain procurement element, working with us. Okay, next one, please, Ash. So Civils Works Alliance, if you could kick on, thank you. So I think this is yeah, next one, please, Ash. That's it, thank you. This is a really, really good slide. You can see the Alliance effectively at the bottom of the page. I love it because actually, in terms of the Civils Works Alliance, you've got actually 3 of the UK's biggest civil engineering contractors. Bouygues, actually one of the world's biggest contractors, and we're here with Sizewell C effectively, and I will put it into layman's terms, to build the foundation for the power station. Okay, so in terms of underpinning everything that sits above, both in terms of how we've got the schematic, but also in terms of the work we're here to deliver, I think it just paints a wonderful picture. The Alliance itself is based on the Australian Alliance model, which I'm not sure whether many people on the call will be familiar with, but seemingly it is a tried and trusted model that has been used many times. It's underpinned quite a few alliances already within the UK, and it is something that I'm starting to get my head around at the moment. The CWA don't have a contract as such, so again, in terms of the face of the CWA, certainly from a procurement perspective, we are still very much operating in the name of Sizewell C, but there is, as you can imagine, quite an army of people looking to get that agreement, that contract in place, which would formally allow the Civils Works Alliance to stand up and be, let's put, yeah, possibly more visible. But do you want to move on, Ash? Thank you. So in terms of scope, there's 3 key elements. I say I'm going to keep this simple. We've got effectively three portions. We have what we call the enabling and the earthworks. Very simply, The enabling works is to create the area in which the power station will sit. So the key element of the enabling works is a D wall, a cut-off wall that effectively creates the area where the power station will sit, and effectively it protects the power station from the water, the peat, and the marshes that sit around the power station. It's about 2.5 kilometres. I think it's about 2 metres thick. It's 50 metres deep in certain parts, and I've been told that it's actually the biggest D wall that the UK has ever seen. Lots of concrete, lots of rebar, as you can imagine, and that work is due to start in January 2026. Aligned to that, we have the earthwork. So as the D wall is constructed, the peat is effectively excavated as the D wall continues. There's about 6 million cube of peat to remove from that area, which is the MCH. You can see it on the diagram. Some of that gets treated with lime, with cement, and that will get put back into the hole. And we've also got to bring in, I think it's around 3 million tons of stone, much of it which is mixed with cement, and then that is effectively laid and is the platform on which the concrete, which is the foundation for the power station, is then delivered by the main civils works team, which you can see on the right. So in terms of the main civils, this is effectively the foundation on which the reactors are placed. There's about 1.1 million cube of concrete, which is laid over the next sort of, I think it's about sort of 8 to 10 years. 350,000 tons of rebar, so a huge program of works. And as that work starts to complete, we get the MEH team take over, and we get to have the nuclear plant installed. Okay, and that work starts around 2027. There's elements of early work that are going on there. We talked around replication earlier. That's been mentioned a number of times. There are a number of replication packages that are in the early stages of procurement at the moment. A number of reasons for that. One, generally, is the long lead time associated with some of those packages, but the other is just that learning that we want to take from Hinkley. As Hinkley starts to demobilise around a number of packages, what we are keen to do is ensure that that experience, that learning, is not lost. That those personnel are not lost to Sizewell C. So yeah, quite a lot of work actually going on in the main civil space at the moment. The third element of the works we're undertaking is the marine and tunnelling. Again, very simply put, this is the cooling water system that will operate once the power station is commissioned. There are 2 tunnels, each of about, I think it's about 3 kilometres long, 6 metres in diameter. They will take the water from the sea, cool the power station down as it operates, and then there is that single blue line that you can see in the top schematic, which is an 8 metre diameter, 3.5 kilometre long tunnel that puts the water back out into the sea. Okay, next one, please, Ash. So 2024 priorities, a number of activities going on. Next one, please, Ash. And again. So on-site activities. So the CWA is, as I say, it's starting to stand up now. There's a lot of work that Tim spoke of that's ongoing from a site delivery perspective. From a CWA's perspective, again, as part of really enabling access across the whole of the TCA and the MCA. There are some early earthworks that we are undertaking at the moment. There's a lot of trials going on to really optimise the solution, both in terms of cost and programme around the ground improvement. As I say, we are in a very different place to Hinckley Marine. Hinckley was very much built on a hard rock foundation. Sizewell C is in a very different place. So there are a lot of trials going on at the moment in terms of how we can build that foundation at minimum costs and acceleration of programs. So hopefully spending little today to save as we go forward in terms of, I say, cost and program. We are starting to do some works on the triple SI crossing. So the triple SI crossing is particularly important to us because it really opens the MCA up to the Civils Works Alliance. It connects the temporary construction area with the main construction area, and really takes, at the moment, we can only access the MCA through the Sizewell B access road. So really getting that triple SI crossing. It's a Bailey bridge with a temporary bridge to the side and also a permanent bridge, which will be left for the final power station build. That work begins in September. From a procurement perspective, there's an awful lot going on. This doesn't really do it justice, actually, but it does pick up some of the early activity in terms of the triple SI crossing. So the sheet piling is associated with that. Looking further afield in terms of the marine and tunnels, there's an existing segment factory which was used to deliver the precast concrete segments for the tunnels at Hinckley. That was then used for tunnels for HS2, and as their requirement ends as we go through 2025, we take that facility and repurpose it again for Sizewell C. A lot going on in the engineering and the design space around earthworks, enabling works, as you can imagine, and from a procurement perspective, that's super critical that actually we get that information that allows us to go, to market in good time. So a lot of work going on with Atkins at the moment. Next one, please, Ash. So working with us. So what we've tried to really articulate here is not to go into any great detail around particular packages. As you can see, there is a huge pipeline of opportunities that we will be making available over the coming months and years. The 2027 timeline, again, doesn't really do what we've got justice. A lot of the procurement that we've got to do, certainly for main civils, M&T rolls beyond 2030. So it's really about giving everyone just a flavour of what we've got, and calling out, just some of those sort of key packages. I think the other thing just to call out here as well is these are effectively the Civils Works Alliance Tier 1 packages. I think what we will have is effectively a multiplier effect with the packages that sit within Tiers 2, Tier 3, Tier 4. Ash alluded to it earlier in terms of the whole compete for visibility. It's not just about the contracts that the CWA are looking to let. It will be about our Tier 1s and our Tier 2s and making sure and contractually obliging them to make sure that their opportunities are also advertised within the compete for portal. So I say what you see there is what we have as CWA, but I think in terms of the significance of compete for, which has been mentioned a number of times, I think that engagement piece is particularly important for everybody on the call because, as I say, there will be a significant multiplier effect with this. We've done a lot of good work already with Ashley and with his team, a number of opportunities that we have already put on to compete for, and literally at the moment we are going through a place where, as this thing grows, there are more and more opportunities that we're putting on, and that recent compete for schedule that you can see in the top right hand corner, I'm guessing will have grown since Peter originally sort of presented this 4 weeks ago. So that compete for engagement cannot be overemphasized. Thanks, Ash. We'll move on to the next one. So from a supply chain perspective, what we're trying to do at the moment, work with Ashley to really pull together a calendar. What I'm keen to do from a Civils Works Alliance perspective is really get a regular cadence with all of our suppliers, and making sure that whatever we do, whether it's those meet the buyer sessions, whether it's something that's more cozy, if you like, in terms of the roundtable discussions, that they are on point. They are value adding. We simply can't afford to to go through a process of a meet the buyer exercise that doesn't, or a day that doesn't give us value. So I'm really keen that I say we are on point with what we do. We make it relevant. We bring the right suppliers, to work with us at the right time, because we have a number of problem statements, as you can imagine, on a job like this. And what I want to make sure is that we are tapping into that local expertise that can really unblock some of those problem statements that we've got, but it has to feed into the process that we've got. So again, Tim went through that quite articulately a few minutes ago, and what we're trying to do is make sure, if you see, in terms of the procurement life cycle that we've got in the top right hand corner, is just making sure that when we have those meet the buyer sessions, when we have those roundtables, that they are in sync with package launches and they are relevant at any given point in time. So a little bit of work to do there, but I don't think we're too far away. And actually, once we've got this calendar in a good place, more than happy to share it with everyone on the call. Next one, please, Ash. So going forward, please register on the supply chain portal. I know Ashley talked around that again at the start of the call, but the work that we are doing with Ash and Ian Curry, the value add I can't understate. There's been some great work that we've done today, and there will be some great work going forward. But if you're not on the portal, then you're not accessible. So please do register on the supply chain portal. Do monitor compete for. I say it's going to get very busy over the coming years, but that will be a key sort of go-to, I think, for all of us. So please do, if you're not registered, get yourself on there and check in daily. It's very important you do that. Suffolk Chamber of Commerce website is a great source of information. Again, Ash and the team are on point with that, so another go-to point. And if you've got any specific CWA supply chain queries, you want to get in touch, you want to tell us what you're all about, there's an email address there that is monitored daily. Okay, so again, please do reach out to us as a CWA, and we will get back to you. So yeah, 4 sort of great pillars there, but I think that one with compete for is particularly important. Next one, please, Ash. I think, is that me? Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mick. Right, I'm just going to cover off the ESG slides, I say, on behalf of the ESG team. Looking at the time and the amount of questions, there's some fantastic questions on there. Some we've answered quickly, but some we want to hold out and make sure we have some time for. So I will, to a degree, whiz through this a little. Obviously, as said, you'll get the copies of this. And then we have done other events and webinars around ESG as well. So some of the other webinars that are on the website are focused on ESG, and some of the individual character parts of it. But just social value, ESG on Sizewell is critical. Their aim is to make a best-in-class project to change the face of construction, and they want to do it in the best way as possible for Suffolk. One of the reasons, obviously, that the planning went on for so long for Suffolk is how do you build Sizewell, mitigating as much of the impact that you are undoubtedly going to have. And so one of the key ways, outside of all the stuff they're doing around transport and local companies and all these things, is actually how you do some good. And Sizewell has these aims of creating the national job opportunity, local and national job opportunities, develop the skills, support the communities, and everything else you see there on the screen. And they have this committed. And a lot of the activity that happened before even construction was underway was all about how they start to deliver this stuff. So whilst we now see activity happening on the construction side, actually the work that's been going into ESG has been happening for a lot longer and will probably then happen well beyond construction of the actual site itself. They've made all these commitments. These are Sizewells, beyond, you'll see, obviously recognise the supply chain one that we've referred to before. But actually, when you see these numbers, and again, speaking personally, we've seen these numbers a lot. We've presented these numbers a lot. When you then refer them to the Hinkley Point C report that I referenced earlier, you actually realise that these numbers are more than possible for them to achieve, exceed, whatever it may be. Some of them are challenging. 40% women in nuclear is a huge target. But Sizewell has very much said we might as well aim for what we want and what we would like to see. And it is going to be tough, and there might be the odd thing like that they might not be able to achieve. But you know what? It's going to be a massive transition, even if they get close to it. And as a chamber, obviously, we support these activities. So ESG, ESG is core because it's part of the finance of this project. I talked earlier about the government investment. ESG is one of those main constituent parts that the potential investors in Sizewell want to see. They want to see if they're investing their money that actually it's doing more good than just bringing in some money for them in the future. And ESG is the way in which this is seen. So as a result, Sizewell is embedding ESG into this project. And what that means is it's making sure that everyone from top down understands and practices ESG, that actually they outline the aims, which are below very clearly, and that everyone within the supply chain has a role to play in ESG. So this is not just about one or two people at the top or a few businesses at the bottom delivering. This is top down, absolutely everyone. So fundamentally, Sizewell has to be delivered on time, on budget, safely. And that's why the strategic aim number one will always be on Sizewell: safety and environmental management. That is the key. But then when you look underneath at those other four aims, that is where point 3 is about being on budget, and that they deliver it with the best value for money they can for the taxpayer. But then also, you see point 4, maximising that UK content, supporting levelling up, and in particular for us, getting local businesses involved. So, and as I said, they've been doing this for years. I mean, when I first joined the project 3 years ago, one of the first things I was actually the bottom centre picture. I was at that event where the first MOU was signed with one of the education partners. And so this has been underway for some time, and it is all about, as a project, doing that power of good for Suffolk, leaving a legacy in all different ways that it possibly can. So within ESG, there are 5 key areas, and this is the support that we will also give to you as businesses. So first one, increase the UK content, and you roll that down into a procurement route of local, then regional, then national. So the aim of the project is, can local deliver? If reasonably local can deliver, as long as it is on time, on budget, with the right businesses, then that's the first route they will take. If local cannot, they will go regional. And then if regional cannot, they will go national. And if national can't, then of course you have to go international. But the project's aims of 70% UK mean that they will use UK businesses at every possible opportunity on this project. Obviously, there's also got to be investment in education, employment, and skills. So this is getting young people into the project. This is getting people out of who are not in work back into work. These are people that have maybe multiple generation unemployed. These are people who are struggling in life. These are different communities. This is all about reaching out and getting more people into the workforce. Now, that's a challenge in Suffolk because we naturally have quite a low unemployment rate. But as I mentioned earlier, there are still plenty of parts of this county and the surrounding areas that do struggle, that do have deprivation, that need opportunities and support. And I know Gavin referred to a lot of this earlier. And again, if that doesn't show, this project is very much connected, whether it's supply chain, whether it's skills, whether it's ESG, is that all of these kind of interlink within each other. And as local businesses, this is where you can play a massive role. Obviously, there has to be a reduction in the environmental impact of construction. So this is, again, everything from where they choose to get the people and businesses from, all the way through to the fuel that you're using, the activities which you're undertaking. You know, are you may well as a business be measuring your scope 1, but are you measuring your scope 3 emissions and understanding the wider impact that your procurement practices happen? What's also key with goals 1 and 3 combined, and we had a great example recently when we did an event with PPE suppliers, is we want to see a local PPE supplier supply all the high vises for Sizewell. But if that Suffolk-based PPE supplier is just shipping it all from the Far East, then on one hand, isn't that good? You've got a local company doing it. It's probably employing a few people, but actually it's not helping the UK manufacturing industry, and it's not exactly great for the environmental impact because you're shipping it all from the other side of the world. So sometimes you have to take a balanced view of all these different areas to go, well, actually, is there a better route? Is there a better way to deliver a legacy out of this using ESG as the principle? We have to tackle workforce inequality. And particularly, again, that's looking into diverse areas, different communities, trying to help upskill people and bring people into work like at Sizewell. And then importantly as well, help them work through a project like Sizewell to grow themselves and improve themselves and their families. And then also optimizing the opportunities for local communities. You know, there's a lot of communities, particularly in East Suffolk, that will be affected by Sizewell. So how do we make the most of that? How do you get the benefit to then go against some of the pain that will be felt? Now, all of these are key, and every business that works on the project will be expected to evidence aspects of this. Hence, I joke, but the ESG team today are out volunteering today because Sizewell is making sure in multiple ways it is delivering on the message itself that it wants businesses to also evidence. Now, the way in which they're going to do this is as they get to the invitation to tender stage, a number, normally 1 to 3, as it says on there, could be all 5 on some, of those supply chain goals will be particularly focused on, dependent on the contract, because also it has to be relevant. If you're looking for someone to do work on the project that's going to be mainly office-based, well, there could well be that there's less focus on the carbon emissions, but more focus on the working into diverse communities and young people, etc., with regards to apprentices. So the procurement teams under Tim's remit will then look to make sure that the right applicable scope is on the contract. That supplier will then outline very clearly what those commitments are going to be. So not only this, here's our price, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to deliver it. It will then also be, this is how we're going to do ESG, and this is our route and the types of results you're going to get. Those agreements are then put in place. Sizewell C will make sure they are in contract, and then the supplier will have to commit and report on them. And again, we get a lot of feedback from some other projects, some locally, some nationally, where the local message and the social value message is very positive at the start, and then it just gets diluted through the project. I can't stress enough the evidence we are already seeing from the project themselves that actually, no, this will be in. You will be expected to report. You will be expected to showcase what you're doing, and people will be held to account. And at certain levels, at the tier 1 level, they will be incentivized. So you've kind of got all angles to make sure that good is done. And where it's not done, people like ourselves will get involved to help support and change that. So if you're bidding for work, kind of think about as a business how you can help meet those goals, those 5 key areas, because whether you're bidding for work directly or you're going to work for someone else who is working on the project, you will be part of that solution. So if you're a local business that wants to work for a multinational that's going to run part of the scope of works that Mick talked about, for example, you know, digging a tunnel 3.5 kilometers out to sea that's 8 meters wide. So can you do the work, first of all? Yes, you can. Will you price it accordingly? Yes, you can. Will you be safety conscious? Yes, you will. What else can you then do other than just be local? Well, you may already be engaged with the colleges, with schools, with the voluntary sector, You may already be doing loads of outreach work in schools. These are the types of things we can be doing now, getting into practice, so that when these organisations who are going to run this project come forward and want local businesses, if you're a local business that's already delivering social value, that puts you in an even better place. And of course, also, we know loads and loads of businesses are already working on Sizewell and doing great stuff in the social value space. The Sizewell C ESG team, and you've got the email at the bottom, and as we said, you'll get all these contacts anyway. They want to hear about it. They want to hear about the good that's already happening, both on the project directly, but by businesses who want to work on the project. And also, they're open to ideas. I cannot stress again, a project of this size that's looking to replicate from the Southwest, it still understands it doesn't know everything. And it wants ideas, it wants innovation. So when you're in the ESG space, and if you've got ideas on how you can deliver even better social value for Suffolk, again, get in touch with the team. And reporting is key. So as a business, whether you're talking ESG, whether you're talking health and safety and compliance, whether you're talking about your procedures and policies and processes that you have in your business, revisit them. Give them a check over. Are they up to date? Are we evidencing them? If a member of your team was asked what your health and safety policy is, or questions to do with, your business, can they answer it? Is it completely throughout the ethos of your business? Because that's going to be critical for Sizewell to be evidenced to them by you as local businesses. Right. I did whiz through a little bit ESG, and I will apologise to the ESG team for doing that. But we have a lot of questions, and so I do want to try and answer as many as we can. What I will say, if any of the guys are still on that we're presenting, if they can chuck their cameras on, I appreciate some are going to be close on time. But any we can't answer, we will make sure we come back onto and respond. So I will whiz through some of them straight away, which is great. Can you share a link to the Hinkley report? Yes, we will. When we send out, we'll send the link to the socio-economic report. It is on the Sizewell C website as well, but it's a great read and genuinely worth doing. The release of the expressions of interest in major roads was only open for 1 week over the Easter holidays. Will the EOI period always be so short? We missed out on these because of these 3 opportunities due to this. Will there be further opportunities in these civils roads packages? Right, a couple of angles to this. So they'll often be a week. A week to 10 days is the standard. To be clear on the EOIs, it is a short initial process. So it is in advance of the PQQ. So it's not a long process to respond to this. But on a project like this, the best way I can describe it is Monday to Friday working to a degree goes out the window. This project will be 7 days a week, 365 a year. And as much as we push the project to give as much notice as possible, and we will continue to do that, you can expect to see 7 to 10 days being the norm. And the fact it's Easter or weekends or Christmas or whatever will be by the by, to be brutally honest. And that's the experience we've had from Somerset Chamber as well. There will be further opportunities, though, because fundamentally all they're doing through these packages is looking for the principal contractors to run these. So therefore, those principal contractors are not going to deliver it all themselves. Some will be national, some will be locals, but they will then need an entire supply chain to work underneath them. And this possibly comes to one of the other questions that's there around tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Our role is to work with Tim and Mick and the rest of the team to identify those tier 1s and to find those people that they want to award a contract to. Our work then is, cheers Tim, cheers Mick, thank you very much, put you to the side. We then work with that tier 1. Right, tier 1, who do you need? What do you need? We're already doing that work, and we'll continue to do that work more to ensure that those people that are bidding for work, they have to evidence their local supply chain, and we'll help them do that. Anything else to add on that, Tim, Mick, or are you happy?
Just to say, we'll be looking to engage and give as much timescale as we can possibly allow within the project constraints, and appreciate that these things do sometimes land. It's the part of the procurement piece I hate. We're always very good at sending out, jokingly, but sending out these types of things either over Christmas and expecting something back on the 2nd of July, January, etc. So look, I appreciate it. I do work with the team to give as much notice, an appropriate notice, and a sympathetic timing of that. But on this occasion, with the project requirements, etc., it did land at an awkward time.
And I think, again, I know Tim refers to it, our aim is to get actually the advance notice you need. So it might not be going on Compete For, but you'll know, take those roads, for example, that's going to be going on Compete For in July. then at least you know in advance as much as possible so you can keep yourself aware. Now government are the major shareholder, will the government procurement processes be used? Yes, they will. Yeah, it's a simple answer to that one. Tim, I mean, you'll be better to be able to answer that.
Sorry, just repeat what you said. Sorry, just.
So now government are the major shareholder, will the government procurement processes be used?
Not at the moment. So we've got our, yep. So we have we've got our AGS, which we've taken everybody through, visibility of that. So that's our existing procurement route going to market.
And then sort of rules like government playbook and the green book and things like that, are they things that are worth companies being aware of?
I think it's always good because they may make common sense, and they, anything around the government activity and going to market and understanding that can only be of benefit. I think all of the playbooks all around it, etc. For me, just make absolute really good common sense around doing business. So absolutely, never a waste of time. But at this point in time, we've got our process. We're docking in very closely around that. But it's our process around that, how that engages.
Will the enabling and earthworks have an expression of interest notice? I mean, yes. But Mick, I'll let you answer in detail, but obviously it'll be broken down into more than just enabling and earthworks.
Yeah, it will, Ash. So absolutely it will. I mean, some of those packages we put on screen earlier, they've already gone through the compete for process. I mean, just touching on that whole timescales thing, I think we are in a place at the moment where some of these things are quite fluid, because collectively what we are trying to achieve is just that certainty of program at the moment. So there are certain things that, certainly from a Civils Works Alliance, certain packages, there's certain elements of work that at the moment we are trying to effectively bring to the left, to decompress the program as the work moves to the right. Hopefully that makes sense. So yes, we will be putting everything through compete for. Some of the timescales will possibly be challenged, but again, what we are looking to do is just give as much notice as we possibly can.
Perfect, thank you. I'm just quickly seeing if there's any questions that are particularly going to be you, Tim, because I know you have to scoot in a second. Okay, now doesn't appear there is. Right, let's pick another couple. Regarding the North and South Park and Ride transport, have these been awarded already? No, they haven't. So they are currently at invitation to tender stage for the Wickham Market and the Darsham Park and Rides. So in the hopeful relative near future, they will complete that process, and then we will start to know who's been awarded those two pieces of work. Done on that one. Mick, this can be more for you. How will the Civil Works Alliance partners, how much, will the Civil Works Alliance partners deliver themselves?
Right, that's still being worked through at the moment. I think again, we just need to be careful around maybe some of the language that we use there, in that there will be elements. I always tend to call it self-manage as opposed to self-deliver, because self-deliver sort of suggests that you own lots of plant potentially, you've got lots of operatives employed, and again, some of the stuff that was picked up earlier around sort of the work with the unions, I think it was called the collective framework that was signed yesterday. I think we just need to be cognizant of that. There will be elements of self-management for sure, but even within that, we will have to go and procure plant, we will have to go and procure materials, we will have to go and procure operatives to deliver that work. So there will be elements, even within, let's call it a self-delivery package, there are potentially elements of that the CWA would look to subcontract anyway. So I don't know is the honest answer in terms of how much we are intending to self-deliver, but I think again it's a bit of a misnomer, because even where we self-deliver, there will be lots of things that we need to procure without a shadow of a doubt.
Fantastic, thank you, Mick. Actually, Tim, there is one here. A question was asked: is it worth companies advanced registering on things like iValuer?
I would say at this point, no. and we'll take you through that as and when is required. So not at this point. I will double check my answer on that, and if it's wrong, I'll come back to you though. All right.
No, fine. Oh, no, fantastic. But again, our experience so far of local firms who have been using our value is that the support is there through the procurement teams, should you be lucky enough.
Yeah, which is
what I get to that stage. When will the PQQ tender process start for the off-site infrastructure packages? It depends which package. To be brutally honest, as I said earlier, North and South Park and Rides are now ITT. They're just about to go to PQQ on the roads packages that were recently, and we referred to earlier, but recently put on. And then there's other, off-site minor road schemes, rail schemes, some other bits and pieces to come still live on Compete For and go through expression of interest very soon, let alone on-site, which is obviously where the vast majority of the activity will take place. So continuously is the answer to that question. And again, reference what we said earlier, we will make sure we help you understand when that's going to happen, and then support you as much as we can in identifying and giving you the heads up when it's actually on Compete For as well. Where can we register for the Meet the Buyer event in June? We will send that information out. So we're still working, for example, with the Alliance at the moment on what events we're going to do with them, when they're going to be done. It needs to be the right time for everyone. But as soon as we get that information, it'll be on our website, on our socials, and also, as we always do, we'll be emailing out as well. So it will be multiple ways, but it'll be nice and clear that if you're the right type of business to be attending the Meet the Buyers that we hold, then we will make sure that you are part of our thinking for it. How will the supply chain bidders know what of the ESG targets are included to tender against? You'll be told that when you get to ITT stage. So at that point, where you are expecting to bid for the work, it will be made very clear to you at that point what areas of ESG the procurement teams want to focus on. Now, I'm going to presume, seems you've still got you, Tim, if you happen to do in all 5, great, evidence it. That's not a bad thing. But if you particularly want to be focused on apprenticeships and communities, then make sure you can answer those. But if you happen to be doing good stuff on net zero and local, then evidence it.
Absolutely. Tell us everything.
Fantastic. Right, and then if I go back to the top, so I missed a couple. We at Corgin have been heavily involved at Hinckley with dust suppression. Although Midlands-based business, how do you view situations like this? Ultimately, it's down for you to bid. The reason that Compete For is used is to make it a transparent national opportunity. So our role is to help local and regional businesses. That doesn't mean only local and regional businesses will work on this project. As much as I would love, as representative of Suffolk Chamber of Commerce, I'd love it just to be Suffolk businesses on this project for obvious reasons. But that's not possible. It is impossible. You're going to need multiple solutions from multiple parts of the country to do single packages of work. So if you are a non-regional based business, but you can evidence probably from working at Hinckley, great examples of how you keep it on time, on budget, and bring learnings and intelligent replication, then that will support your bid. Ultimately, it's down for Tim and his team, or Mick and his team, to then decide on, right, what's most important for this package of work? How do we score this? Is local able to do it, or is it actually safer, for example, in that scenario, to use a Midlands-based business? That will be a question for the guys to answer themselves internally. Go on, Tim.
Yeah, sorry, I need to leave now. Apologies.
No, thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for your time today. Appreciate it. See you later.
What we got? A couple more minutes. Try and get the last couple of bits and pieces. Training and guidance for Compete For. We're working with Compete For at the moment on this. There are some guides already on the Compete For website. We've done some YouTube videos. We will also be doing some bits and pieces ourselves very soon as well. So keep an eye for that. Key would be in this example, Tony, companies like yourselves, you may have seen recently the accommodation management system was launched. So for accommodation providers, we still say, hey, sign up, because it's information. It's information about the project. It's information about support. So we still encourage everyone to sign up. But actually, as an accommodation provider, the key thing for you to do now is to sign up for the AMS, because they've built a platform, if you want, a booking.com type thing, for all accommodation providers who want to offer accommodation to workers to place their accommodation. And then the project is saying to everyone who works on the project, right, you've got to use this platform to find where you want to stay. So it is the single key place for someone like your business, as an individual example, Tony, to be registered anyway. But we encourage people to still sign up to our portal, Compete For, to get all the information, understand what's going on, spot other opportunities, etc. We will do at least one more. Let's have a look, see if there's something that's Mick related while I've got you as well, Mick, still. When awarding to principal contractors, how will you ensure new suppliers have opportunity to supply the project and not just those existing approved suppliers on the principal contractor's original database? Now, Mick, I know I've worked with your Balfour Beatty teams a lot on this, so do you want to answer that?
Actually, I think this is possibly more one for Tim as opposed to me, Ash, because I think from a CWA perspective, we won't be employing as principal stroke main contractors. So
what I know from our experience so far is, because you're right, there is a number of principal contractors already have an established supply chain.
Yeah.
Key, and every chat we've had with any larger business and local businesses that we're trying to hope win, opportunities on Sizewell, is that we're not going to drop the ball on other stuff, because we can't have businesses just focusing on Sizewell. And whether they're a massive national tier 1 or a good sized local SME, is that you have to be able to do in your normal job. Sizewell should be additional. So all of our conversations as a chamber with those looking to be a tier 1 contractor is about adding additionality to their supply chain. So they need to evidence more local anyway. So we work with, and I've literally had an email this morning from one of the main contractors currently on site, who they're doing a good job with local supply chain, but they're still utilizing some of their existing supply chain in certain skill sets from outside of the region. So they're sending me a list to say, do you have providers in region that can do these jobs? And that's part of our role to help. But then, as I say, in addition to that, it's how you add more depth anyway. And the example, I referenced Balfour Beatty, because we did some work with them about 18 months ago around some of their scope that they want to go for on Sizewell. But at the same time, Balfour Beatty is an organisation very busy in this region anyway, on the flood prevention schemes, on Anglo water schemes. So they're already busy using their existing supply chain. They need more businesses in their supply chain, and everyone will. So how will you ensure it? That will, as Mick said, that's probably more down to Tim. But our job is to work with those tier 1s who are hoping to be selected or are selected, to then ensure that there is as much local and a deep enough local to be able to handle what Sizewell need, but also to make sure Suffolk still moves. Because otherwise, we're not going to, you look at the rail, you look at water, you look at energy, there's so much going on that it can't all stop for Sizewell. Right, I am conscious we have 2 minutes, so there is loads more questions. We will answer all of them, and I know there's a couple been chucked in chat as well. So when we send out all of the information, which Beth will send out in the next few days, we will make sure you've got everything that you need, and as many questions as always. And as we always say, just if in doubt, contact the team. You've got myself, you've got Ian, you've got Beth, you've got the rest of the team as well. If you've got any questions at all, reach out. You'll see on the slides, you'll have some email addresses for some of the other parts of Sizewell. They're more than happy to hear from you. Understand that everyone's busy, so you don't always get a response immediately. That's not because they're ignoring you. It's because they're currently trying to work out how to procure the next thing to keep this project going. But we are here to support you. So if you have any questions at all, just reach out and we'll attempt to help. And like I said, we'll make sure we share all of this content. And just as a final plug, it will be recorded. It will be on the website. And therefore, while you're there, have a look at some of the other content that we've previously talked about. All these things that will help you get ready for Sizewell. So with nothing else, I'll say thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we've pretty much finished bang on 12 o'clock, so we did pretty well. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.